everyone. Thank you for joining me on my talk today. I'm Jordan Quintel, active member of the WordPress community. Just getting in, my company and I are getting into the web accessibility domain as well. So I do thank the organizers of this event for allowing me to come in today and presenting this particular topic. Now, show of hands or shout out, like who here is a website developer or builds websites? Okay, great. So a lot of people. That's great. Now, who here builds websites with WordPress? Fantastic. A lot of people. That's great to hear. So this particular talk is going to be about WordPress and accessibility. It's not going to be heavily on the technical side. It's going to be mostly showcasing some of the things that WordPress as a foundation has been doing to improve WordPress as a tool in terms of accessibility. Certain and specific things you can do to make your WordPress websites a bit more accessible, and different ways on how you can get involved with the community, the local community, with the WordPress community, etc. So first things first, what is WordPress? This is some information I found online on what WordPress is. How many sites are actually using WordPress, which is an abundant amount, almost 75 million websites now powered by WordPress. So it is in fact the largest website platform out there right now. Essentially it is a content management system. Started out as a blogging tool, now is more commonly used as a CMS, so it's a system that will allow you to manage your content effectively and efficiently, and very simple and easy to use. WordPress was used by more than 22% of the top 10 million websites as of August 2013. So a big chunk of websites, and more so the top websites, are being powered by WordPress. You can see a list of some of the notable brands that are using WordPress, things like New York Times, CNN, so these big news companies are using WordPress to blog their news, to blog their info. They have massive multi-site setups being used. UPS, eBay, that was kind of a surprise to me. Best Buy, Rolling Stones, Jay-Z, they use their WordPress for their sites. TechCrunch, which is a huge tech blog, and things like Samsung, the US Republican Party, Mashable, which is another kind of tech blog as well. So some pretty big names using WordPress right now, and definitely will continue to grow. So it's a popular tool, and being able to build accessible websites with WordPress is definitely very important along those lines. So here's some information I pulled from the codex.wordpress.org/accessibility, specifically information on WordPress as an accessible tool, as well as WordPress as an accessible authoring tool for websites. So making not only the back end, but front end WordPress stuff accessible. I won't bother rereading that stuff. You can definitely check it out on the slides afterwards. But essentially, the idea is to implement the accessibility standards in terms of providing an environment that is accessible for people to not only use the product, but also build accessible websites. So out of the box, WordPress has built-in functionality that will make your website somewhat accessible, but it also requires accessible content and some tweaking to ensure that that your website as well as your content is fully accessible. There is a group now that is working towards making WordPress as a tool accessible. We've done some auditing and testing on version 3.9, which was tested for keyboard navigation, screen reader compatibility, etc. A lot of work is being done now in terms of doing the same with version 4.0. So not only has previous versions been worked on, but current versions and future versions also get extensive testing in terms of making sure that it is accessible and that it can be used by everyone. WordPress. This is a standard WordPress backend dashboard. It's got the keyboard navigation is built in as well. So things like skip links, keyboard focuses, they're all in there. Right, so we've got our skip link. We've got our various focuses, so on and so forth. And this is me navigating it strictly with the keyboard. So you can see that there has definitely been some work put towards allowing WordPress to be a lot more accessible. There are a bunch of other things, but I just wanted to kind of demonstrate some of the more fundamental things that have been implemented and have been added to WordPress as a tool. Which I think
what version are you running here? Sorry.
This is the last stable version of 3.9, which was fully tested before 4.0 came out, which is why I didn't use that as a demonstration. It's still in the processes of testing and accessibility. So 3.9 is what I'm demonstrating here. And like I mentioned, it's very, there was a lot of work put into it, a lot of testing, a lot of patches, and a lot of contributing from people around the world. Like I mentioned, there is a group that kind of focuses on that aspect. So they've done a lot of great work, and they continue to do a lot of great work in terms of, like I said, making the tool as accessible as possible.
Yeah. The new features in 4 got audited prior to it going, so there's a fighting chance it'll be alright.
Yeah, definitely. Before 4.0 was released, there was a bunch of piloting and testing done. I know that there's a long list of track updates and patches that need to be built in, but before the release, there was definitely testing done on 4.0, and they'll continue to do that testing with future versions as well. So it's a great tool to start off with. Obviously, like I mentioned, it is one of the bigger platforms around the world, so this kind of stuff is definitely important. Making it inclusive, making it accessible is an important part of the future, I believe, of WordPress. Not only should it be a tool for people without challenges, but I think more so it should be a tool for people with challenges to be able to build sites as easily and as efficiently as anyone else would. I'll just show you, this is on Wave. This is our corporate site, Genius Web Media, and I just wanted to outline that. This is all built in WordPress, and with a couple of modifications and with accessible content, you can see that we built a fairly accessible site itself. It's not 100%, but it's a lot closer than others that we've seen, others that we've built. So we did take our time in ensuring that we used WordPress, that we implemented certain accessible attributes and whatnot to it, so that it's as accessible as it can be. So with WordPress itself out of the box, with some minor customizations, some accessible content, you can also achieve a pretty accessible website yourself.
Sorry, when you mentioned that there are parts of it that aren't accessible, what features are those?
Pardon me?
You mentioned that parts are not accessible, so I'm just wondering what those features are that people may have challenges with.
Specifically, I mean, I could go through the site itself. I think there was one, this particular error here was about the language not being indicated. Yeah, language document is not identified, which we're going to actually be fixing. Other than that, there's a few that I could definitely go through. But if you want, we can kind of have a one-on-one afterwards if you're interested in helping us out with that stuff.
Sure, is that because of limitations of the tool or lack of knowledge of the person who's designing that website?
It's definitely not the limitation of the tool. I think what we did was that in building the site, we kind of implemented as much of the attributes as we could without going through an entire professional audit. So kind of did a lot of this stuff in-house. In the future, obviously, we're going to take that further and go a lot further with it. But this is what we were able to accomplish in-house using very straightforward, very standard, and very conventional methods of accessibility without having to go the extra mile of getting a professional audit, going through it, and going through step by step. So what I wanted to outline was, without having to go the extra mile or go very far with accessibility, you can still achieve some, some very accessible attributes and very accessible sections of your site, just with using WordPress and with some minor alterations and customizations. So that's kind of what I wanted to outline.
This wave tool that you're using right now, do you swear behind it, or do you usually recommend it?
Yeah, I mean, as a web accessibility evaluation tool, Wave is probably regarded as one of the top ones out there. I wouldn't say that just using Wave is going to get you everything you need. Obviously, there's a lot more involved, which is why professional web accessibility audits are required. If you really want to get down to the meat and potatoes of accessibility, you need to do a lot more than just plug it into Wave. But it kind of gives you a good idea of some of the things that you can easily fix, some of the minor things like headings and your different structures and your alt tags and stuff like that. So
cool.
It gives you the baselines, but it's not by any means a foolproof or a full circle tool. You definitely want to go further, but like I mentioned, if you wanted to get something that was pretty decently accessible, you can build a site, use this tool, and then from there you can kind of figure out where your errors are and kind of how to fix them. So it's a good tool. Wave does give you all the visuals as well as all the notifications and all the different ways that you can not only identify what's wrong with it, but it also tells you how to fix it, which is kind of nice too. So any intermediate to professional developer can take some of these things that Wave evaluates and then easily fix them or change your site, customize your site to accommodate those errors and to fix them.
Cool.
So it's a great tool, but like I said, by all means not a foolproof solution. If you're looking for something foolproof, you definitely need to reach out to a company that specializes in auditing for web accessibility, in which case they can provide you with extremely concise list of things that need to be improved or changed or altered, etc. So that's a little bit on WordPress accessibility itself. As I did mention before, there is a WordPress accessibility group that is dedicated to working on WordPress as a tool, as well as working on guidelines that developers can use to meet theme accessibility as well. So here's a couple of things on the accessibility group itself, which you can find at make.wordpress.org/accessibility. It's a great tool, it's a great resource. Anyone that uses WordPress either personally or professionally should definitely get on board with the group. Even if you're non-technical, there are still a lot of things that you can do to actually help WordPress improve its accessibility. And again, they have both back-end WordPress accessibility improvements as well as building guidelines for developers to build their themes more accessible. So not only do they want, again, to focus on making the tool itself accessible, but they want to focus on ensuring that developers are getting on board with making their themes accessible as well. A lot of the stuff that they do is can be found online. There's a lot of great resources there. There's a lot of different tools. There's a couple of ways where you can find them. Follow them on Twitter, like them on Facebook. They have regular IRC meetings, which is Wednesday, and then there's testing meetings on Monday, and that's where you can find them, the specific place, the specific channel, which is #WordPress-UI. Definitely they do a lot of great things, and I encourage anyone that is adamant about accessibility and that likes WordPress, that uses it, definitely get on board. They'll always welcome you with open arms, and any contribution you can make towards making WordPress more accessible is definitely valued. And like I said, whether you're technical, on a professional level, in a novice level, or not at all, there's definitely something for everyone to do and for everyone to contribute. So, here's the site itself. Make WordPress accessible. You'll see the first page is basically a blog. You'll see that WordPress accessibility ticket priorities. So they're already working on accessibility for version 4.1, which is great. They have a list of things, a list of patches that need to be worked on. You can see that they're grouped, well organized. Everything is nicely documented. Everything is linked. If you log on and you find a ticket or a track that you want to work on or contribute a patch to, definitely log on, take a look, and see what you can do. It's a great resource and tool for everyone. Also, there are ways to get involved, ways to contact, feedback, useful tools, which is a great section as well. Gives you WordPress tools as well as various evaluation tools, and so on and so forth. So it's got a lot of great resources, a lot of great tools, and also has some great information on the different testing that we did. So 3.1 screens, 3.8 admin screens, which was keyboard testing that I was also involved in, and a couple of other things. So regularly they're posting the testing that has been done and a lot of other stuff. So definitely, if you are, like I mentioned, adamant about accessibility and you use WordPress on a personal to professional level, definitely get involved. All contribution is valued. So now we're going to get into some accessibility tools that you can download and install into your WordPress to make your websites a bit more accessible in terms of content and themes themselves versus how they kind of come out of the box. So the first one is called WP Accessibility, which you can find at wordpress.org/plugins/WP Accessibility. To date, it has been tested and compatible with version 4.0, which is great, and it's got over 22,000 downloads, which is very encouraging. Now the plugin itself isn't going to alter any of your theme coding or scripting. So if you build a theme or if you buy a theme, it isn't necessarily going to change any of that. But what it will do is it will add a number of tools to your WordPress installation that will allow your theme to be a lot more accessible. Features can be enabled and disabled as you like, and you can extend it further using custom style sheets and whatnot through your theme directory. So it's a lot of great things. I definitely recommend if you build sites or if you have WordPress websites already online, download the plugin, install it, play around with it, and definitely get a good feel for it and what it does and how it works.
So when you say some of the features, can you give examples of that?
Yes, that is my next slide, is on accessibility features added by WP Accessibility. So the first is enabling skip links with WebKit's support by adding JavaScript support to move keyboard focus. So it adds skip links on your front end site. Skip links is already built into the WordPress admin, but in your front end, if you wanted to add skip links, it does that. It adds language and text direction attributes to your HTML attribute. So it adds a bunch of language and text direction. Keyboard focus, as I mentioned. There's a toolbar for high contrast, large print, and distinguishable views. So color contrast and font resizing. And it adds a long description to images. So when you use the image description field, it will publish those long descriptions on your image as the description itself. So there's a couple of key things. Now obviously it's not going to solve all your accessibility needs and issues, but it's a good start and it's a good tool to kind of install and play with as well.
So does the end user download this plugin, or can you download it and launch that particular site with these features built in?
So the question was, do the end users download it, or is it more for the administrator? It's more of an administration tool. So the person actually developing the site or building the site would download this tool set up, configure it, install it first, obviously, then configure it, and then on the front end, where people aren't really looking at what's going on behind the scenes, but to the front end, it adds all these particular accessibility functions. So it's not something that the user per se would have to download, but it's a great tool for administrators of sites or developers of websites, WordPress websites specifically, to utilize.
For the toolbar, for example, target or contrast, is there a way to make it so that we can detect whether the user is using some sort of accessible device or browser?
I don't believe it does that at the moment, but I'm sure the person, Joe Dawson, who kind of published this particular plugin, is always adding new things and always taking recommendations. So it does have some limitations. Like I said, it doesn't solve all of your accessibility needs, but it does add a few key things that kind of help out for the most part. Device or assistive technology detection, I don't believe is part of that yet. I could be wrong, but from my knowledge, I don't believe so. So there's a couple of accessibility issues that are fixed by WP Accessibility. So alternatively from things that get added to it, it does also fix a few things that some premium themes or some custom built themes may not have resolved. So removing the target attribute from links, force a search page error when a search is made with an empty test string, removing the tab index from elements that are focusable, strip title attributes from images inserted into content, remove redundant title attributes from page lists, category lists, archive menus, add post titles to standard read more links, and address some accessibility issues in the WordPress admin styles. So it does, that last point is kind of a back-end kind of feature, but for the most part, the other points kind of just fix your front-end website and kind of what the user is going to be interacting with in terms of the site developer, the site administer. These are the types of things that it will fix for you right out of the box.
What's wrong with the first point, specifying a target where the link should open? Is there just an area where you're doing it, or?
Pardon me?
The first point, to remove the target attribute, so I'm imagining it's like target parent, target self.
Yeah, it's considered bad form to go to off-site or new windows and targets, because people lose focus where they are when when a new window opens, a new tab opens. So this is taking that away.
Yeah. So how do you open new links in the new window when you need to?
Well, that's a it's a difficult subject, because if someone's on a reader or something like that, how do they know the new window's open? They click something and there's no apparent action because they don't know about the other window. So the device is always open in the same window, and then let them come back to the page where they want to.
Well, wouldn't the old text say this will, activating this link will open in a new window?
Potentially you could do that, but that's one of those sort of grey areas that certain advisors will say certain no and golden rules and.
Usually I've seen an icon indicative that you're jumping to a new.
Yeah, but how do you say that icon?
Or like the other person mentioned, if you added in your alt that clicking on this link will lead you to a new page. Some would argue that that's sufficient enough. Some wouldn't. That's what we've used in the past. If we necessarily need to either open a new site, open a new page, and a new tab, instead of completely eliminating that function, we supplement it with some descriptive text in our alt tags. So for the most part, they say that leading people outside of your site is not generally a good idea, but there are certain ways around it.
You guys are talking about alt tags. You're insinuating that the link is an image. If the link is an anchor text, were you going to use the title, or what would you use that?
There's definitely
HTML5 attributes like external.
HTML5 attributes. For the most part, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, there's a specific way of doing it. Right off the top of my head, I would need to see it. code, no problem, but there is a specific way of doing it. Anyways, moving along, the final section, or the final bit of information for the particular WP Accessibility plugin is in the accessibility tools built in to web accessibility. So some of the extra tools that are kind of added to the arsenal of other things. So the color contrasting, as we mentioned before, it's kind of built into that system, and enable diagnostic CSS to show CSS detectable problems in visual editor or on front end of site. So it's got some diagnostic tools for your CSS that you can use directly with the plugin without having to install any other extensions or any other browser extensions or whatnot. So the particular plugin is intended to help the deficiencies commonly found in themes and to solve some issues in WordPress core. So it does a little bit of both, more so on the theme end side than the WordPress core side. It can't correct every problem, like I did mention, by a long shot, but provides tools to fix some issues, supplement the accessibility of your site, or identify problems. So it does a lot of things. It doesn't do everything, but it's a good start. Like I mentioned, if you build or administer any WordPress sites, it's definitely a great tool to download, become familiar with, install it on your sites, and definitely continue to use it. I'm going to show you a little demonstration on some of the specifics of the tool itself. So this is, first and foremost, this is the page where you can download it. It's in the WordPress.org plugin repository in the directory under WP-accessibility. Download it directly through WordPress, or you can download it from this page and install it to WordPress after the fact. This is kind of what it looks like within WordPress, right? So right when you access the options window for the particular plugin, you get these particular functions. So a lot of it is done for you, and a lot of it is selectable. So you can actually customize how you want the plugin to work. It's not, if you install it and you kind of leave it as is, it will do all the things that I mentioned, but you do have some manual control over it, which is kind of nice. So you can do things with the title attributes, the skip links, obviously, which is important, which we did add, as you can see. You can customize the CSS for your skip links, so it kind of matches the styling of your site, so it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb, which is kind of a nice feature. It keeps things nice and consistent. And then you got a couple of miscellaneous things. Based on kind of most of the stuff that I mentioned earlier, a lot of it is selectable and unselectable. You can kind of play with it, customize it, do different things. You've got your color tester as well, which is a nice feature, which will test of relative luminosity. So it gives you a good contrast testing. And then obviously some other plugin support, other features, support requests. So you can actually follow up with the plugin author. You can find out more information. You can donate, which is always helpful. And if you have any requests or if you have any features that you'd like to see added, things don't work, you can get in contact with the author right from the plugin, which is kind of nice. Saves you time of having to dig around and search for that stuff. So it's a great tool. And like I mentioned, I think everyone should definitely get a good feel for it. Everyone should definitely download it and get in the habit of using it and installing it on all your websites. You'll find that they're a bit more accessible than out of the box themes.
So I get that this helps you make it more accessible, but in the end, can you make a fully accessible website that's compliant?
I mean, if you get the, it really depends on who's building the site, who built the theme. If I purchase a theme from another author, then there may be a lot of stuff in there that needs fixing. If I'm building from scratch, I may have more control over how accessible it is. So it is possible. These particular tools and these particular things aren't going to do everything for you, but if you get a proper audit of the site, you can definitely make it compliant and accessible. And I believe that can achieve some level of compliance with these particular tools, not the full spectrum of compliance. So, you know, if you want to build 100% accessible websites, obviously more work will be needed to be done outside of the stuff that I'm showing you. But you know, what I wanted to do was kind of showcase some of the more straightforward, more streamlined processes of getting to that accessible point, where if you dig deeper, you can obviously do more, but this is a good start for the most part. So it's kind of that snowball effect where if you can get to a certain level, then the rest of it should be pretty straightforward. Another accessibility tool that a company and I have used in the past is called WordPress Zoom. You can find that at wordpress.org/plugins/Zoom-widgets. It has been tested and is compatible with version 4.0 and almost 20,000 downloads. So that's kind of along the same lines as the WP accessibility plugin. So it's definitely picking up steam. A lot more people are downloading them and utilizing them. WordPress Zoom is a pretty small and straightforward plugin. It resizes text on your page, so it's basically a text or font resizer plugin. Very straightforward. You install it, you place the widget where you want on your site, whether in your header, in your footer, your sidebar, you can put it wherever you want on your site, and it'll automatically kind of do the rest for you. It's a pretty handy, nifty tool. In the long run, like I said, it's not anything too complex, pretty straightforward. This is where you can download it again at the wordpress.org/plugins/zoom-widget. Download it, install it, works on all templates. And you know, you have some flexibility with where you want to put it on the site and how you want it to look. So it's not something that kind of looks like you just dumped it in there. You have a little flexibility with how it operates and how it looks on your site specifically. Here's a little quick demo. Like I mentioned, it's very straightforward. You've got your text. Every time I hit plus, makes the text bigger. If I hit 100%, it'll send it back to default. And I can make it smaller if I must. This particular text is showing you what text would look like without Zoom initialized versus this text here, which is responding to the widget itself. Like I said, pretty straightforward, pretty handy. We've been implementing it in various sites. It works pretty well across the board. It doesn't interfere with layouts and stuff like that, so a lot of the times what we worry about with enlarging text is that it's going to either overlap other things or it's going to change the layout of the page itself. This kind of does a good job of not being too, it's not too obtrusive to your particular design. So it's another handy tool. There are a couple of other things that you can use. If you check out the WordPress accessibility group page, they've listed a whole bunch of other useful tools. These are just two that I've outlined that we have used in the past. And they're pretty handy, and like I said, it's definitely worth you guys downloading, installing, playing around with, and utilizing them for future developments or administration of sites. So that's a lot of, you know, on the more technical side of WordPress, in terms of back-end and front-end website. For the next few minutes, I'm going to get more into our Toronto WordPress group, which is a local group. You can find us at wptoronto.com or www.meetup.com/wptoronto. We've got regular meetups. And there's contribution days, there's presentation days, a lot of things going on. It's also worth mentioning that we're having our WordCamp Toronto, and I should say 2014, apologies, November 15th and 16th, 2014, okay. So the date I got right, just not the title of the event, which I apologize. It's at the Humber College Lakeshore campus. Our specific focus this year is on accessibility, so we've gone the extra mile of making the event more accessible for those with special needs. We've got a track, so a track of presentations that are going to be all WordPress and accessibility focused, so on evaluating, making your themes more accessible to the more complex technical side of accessibility as well. This is going to be, it's 2 days of talks, workshops, contribution. There's a sweet after party in between on the Saturday night that everyone's more than welcome to come to. Check out meetup.com. Check out the 2014.toronto.wordcamp.org. That's where you can find all the information on the WordCamp. Again, there is a coupon code for A11YTO members. It's A11YTO. They'll give you a $10 discount, and we definitely love to see all of you there. So do register. Take advantage of the coupon code. I believe it's maxed at 30, so you know, the sooner you register, the better chance you'll have of getting that discount. If not, I'm sure that we can find a way to accommodate anyone else.
Tell them it's only $30.
Yeah, I think it's only 30.
It's only $30, but
So it's 33% off, so it's a good deal.
Nonetheless, you know, any discount is a good discount in my opinion. So there's a little bit of write-up on our specific group, kind of what we're about. You know, we're enthusiasts, we're educators, we're advocates, and we've been doing a lot of great things. I think you know, we definitely like to see Toronto grow as a community, and you know, we definitely want to be in the same league as other big cities across Canada and the U.S. You know, New York, Chicago, those big hubs, we definitely want to be in that same league. So definitely join up the group, come out to the meetups, contribute however you can. It's a great group of people. We've got over 1,000 members. WordCamp last year was in the 400 attendee range, so we've got a lot of support. We've got a lot of attendees, and you know, like I said, we definitely love for all of you guys to come out as well.
5 minutes.
So here is the WordCamp, Toronto WordCamp page, where you can buy your tickets. It's got other things on speakers and sponsors and other things. If you want to volunteer, you can sign up to volunteer. We're having a volunteer meetup coming Tuesday. So you're definitely welcome to come out. You'll find that on meetup.com, that specific meetup. We're encouraging and collecting all of the volunteers, getting them prepared, getting them up to date with our expectations of what we want to do with WordCamp, etc. So anyone that is interested in volunteering, either go to this site or go to the meetup.com and find a way to register or sign up or come out to the meetup. Thank you very much, again, for sitting in on my talk. Register for WordCamp. If you have any questions, the floor is open for the next 5 minutes. Otherwise, feel free to track me down. Feel free to tap me on the shoulder. Feel free to tackle me, whatever you want. Get my attention. I will gladly help and accommodate anyone. Yes, sir.
Is that me?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Sorry. I apologize.
So I'm wondering what you recommend as far as speaking. One of the things that I find that I'm totally blind and do some design of some WordPress sites. And one of the things that I have trouble with is there's about 9 million themes out there, and trying to find one that's not only accessible but actually looks half decent, or you know.
So I answer that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to try to do.
So I believe as of this year, WordPress has added a new accessibility ready tag. So any theme that has gone through the proper audits and reviews for accessibility are now tagged accessibility-ready.
Okay.
And I believe right now there's about a dozen. It's a small group. There's not a lot of accessibility-ready themes as of yet. But there are, you know, like I said, there are about a dozen out there now. And again, they've been audited and reviewed for accessibility obviously, when you install it out of the box, it's got a lot more accessibility features in it than themes that haven't been tagged as accessibility ready. So when you're searching WordPress, either the repository or on Google, just look up accessibility-ready, and you should get those particular themes.
Does that include free and pay, or is that just free?
They're all free.
Okay.
WordPress is, for the most part, has determined that accessibility-ready themes should be free for the most part.
Just to help you out, I found one that exists. It's a government project. It's called the Web Experience Toolkit.
Okay.
That's probably my favorite because, I mean, as long as you're happy and comfortable with CSS,
Okay.
you can make it look like whatever you want. But it's a good starting place to get your site accessible. And I think the latest version is Web 4.0.
Okay.
So I do believe it's a government initiative, so you're covered as far as accessibility.
Okay.
And I guess as far as how it looks, it's not bad if you work for the government. If it's not meant for the government space, you'll have a lot more work to do as far as CSS, but
Okay.
it's really good.
Yeah, I've heard good things about the Genesis toolkit or Genesis framework themes that are supposed to be. So those are not free. But
Yeah, I believe they've been working on the Genesis framework in terms of, I believe they have one theme that works in correlation with the Genesis framework that they're building out as accessible, but I don't know the specific details about that. There's one, I believe, called Universal. Is that from Joe? Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
Okay, well, there's Joe Dolson, who created or published the WP accessibility plugin.
Oh, yes.
Has also come up with a theme.
Yeah, he's got one, yeah.
And that has been completely reviewed and audited for accessibility. So I believe it's called Universal. I'm not too sure. There's a, like I said, if you search accessibility-ready and WordPress, you'll find all the ones that have that tag. So that's a great place to start. Great question. Are there any other questions? Anyone else? Yes.
One of the controls you mentioned was a text sizer.
The Zoom? You mean the Zoom?
Yeah, the Zoom.
Yep.
I'm fairly new to making sites accessible, so I'm a little confused. What is the value of that compared to a browser-based Zoom?
I mean, it's built right into the site. I mean, it's probably the browser Zoom is going to zoom everything, where this is just a text zoomer. So it's only going to enlarge text. You'll notice in that demo, it didn't enlarge anything other than the text that was on there, versus a browser zoom is literally going to zoom in everything in that on that website. So that particular Zoom plugin is more for readability, for larger text. If you have a visual impairment and you're having trouble reading text on a website, use that tool, make the text larger, thus more readable. So it's a bit different than the browser Zoom itself.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good question. Any other questions? I think we've got just about a minute left. Like I said, if you can't squeeze a question in now, please do find me. I'll be around. Yes, sir.
What's a coupon code?
A11YTO. Straightforward. No one will be able to forget that. Hopefully. If not, come find me and I'll gladly repeat it. But you should definitely log on to the site, register, come out to WordPress. We value any feedback that you guys have, any contributions that you guys would like to make. And again, thank you very much.